Welcome to Beyond Rockets. Hope you're having a great day. My name is Clark Dunn and I'm your host. Get ready to enjoy some awesome conversations from Huntsville locals about cool work they are doing right here in the Rocket City. You can connect with us on social media at Beyond Rockets, and if you're interested in doing a podcast yourself, I'd love to hear from you. You can visit my website, beyondrockets.com today, or connect with me on LinkedIn at Clark Dunn. Sit back and enjoy this episode of Beyond Rockets. This episode is sponsored by Yellowhammer Brewing. Yellowhammer is a local craft brewery serving Huntsville for the past 14 years. They are known for their premium craft beers like their T-Minus and Rebellion, but what you might not know is they also offer spirits, wine, seltzers, and non-alcoholic drinks. Next time you stop by their location, try one of their seasonal cocktails made with the Gemini Bourbon or the Yellowhammer Vodka, or try this year's big hit Pineapple Punch Seltzer. You can find out more information about Yellowhammer Brewery by visiting their website, yellowhammerbrewery.com, or visiting their tap room located at Campus 805. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, excited to have you here today. Would you like to introduce yourself and we'll get started there?
Yes, so I'm Erica Hardesty, and I am the founder and executive director of Make It Matter, the collective, and the owner of Noella's Flowers. 2 for 1.
Awesome. And so today we're talking about the Make It Matter collective.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about when you first got started with that, and just give us a brief sort of what is the Make It Matter collective.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got my degree in social work from Auburn University. I graduated in 2018.
Or Eagle.
Thank you. Thank you. Not everybody says that, so thanks. And immediately, literally the day after I graduated, I started working at a local foster care agency that works with kids that are in therapeutic foster care. So they've experienced higher levels of trauma just from all the things that have happened in their life. And we worked with a lot of teenagers. And so I worked there for 3 years. It was such an eye-opening experience, but really more than anything opened up my eyes to all of the gaps in the system. And people say that often, and can give a lot of shade to social workers and the system and things like that. But I think I recognized they were doing the very best they could with what they had. But for me to make the greatest impact possible, it was going to be for me to step away from the system itself and really start something on my own. And so my husband and I prayed about it and ended up launching Make It Matter, the collective, to work with youth who were transitioning out of foster care into independent living.
Yeah, and you started the flower shop kind of prior to this as sort of a ramping up point.
Yes.
To then kind of basically run in tandem. And they do run in tandem a little bit with some of the things you do. Talk a little bit about kind of how, since starting the flower shop, which has grown like crazy. I know you started off as a little truck to then now having a storefront to like just growing and growing and growing. How does the flowers and the Make It Matter collective kind of work hand in hand?
Absolutely. So I'll be honest, I never would have pegged myself to be a florist. I am a believer, and something I always come back to is just, it's crazy how the Lord will kind of put the puzzle pieces together. So for the past 4 years, there's been a lot of separate puzzle pieces, and now I think I'm starting to see them come together, and I'm like, oh, okay, got it. But truthfully, I've always just loved flowers, and when I was still working full-time at the foster care agency and started Make It Matter, we needed a way to fund Make It Matter because I was not making great money as a social worker, which is totally fine. That's not why I was doing it, but no one knew what Make It Matter was, so the donations weren't really flowing in. And so we really wanted a way to pour back into the nonprofit as well as provide job opportunities for these teenagers that are in foster care getting ready to transition out. And so I looked at my husband one day and I was like, we should start a flower truck. He's amazing. He must be a little crazy.
And he said yes.
He did. He literally was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we found, it was like outside of Scottsboro, I think, this old 1963 Ford Econoline. Didn't know what we were doing. Took all of our life savings, which was really nothing at all, and poured it into the flower truck. Did the grand opening, and within 3 months, it just took off.
And around what year was this?
This was in 2021, I believe.
Okay.
That feels about right.
And so you get this truck, you start building out to make it a flower truck.
Yep.
And it quickly becomes popular. It quickly becomes the talk of the town.
That's very true.
When did the transition to actually have a storefront kind of come?
So we had the flower truck for 3 months. I was still working my full-time job. So I was only doing the flower truck on the weekends, but we got to the point where people were wanting to book it during the week, but I had a
And
full-time job.
you're like,
So
I can't. I have a 9 to 5.
yes, exactly. And that was one thing I really wanted to be careful to give all of my time during the week to my job and then really keep the weekends for the truck. But it was exhausting. And my husband, it doesn't run. So my husband was trailering it everywhere that it went. It was just a ton. And so we were 3 months in and we actually got connected with Stovehouse and they had me come and showed me this 500, not even 500 square foot space. And we're just like, we always envisioned a flower store being here. What are your thoughts on that? And so my husband and I really prayed about it because I knew that for me to do that, I was going to have to step away from my full-time job, which would be a super big leap of faith because I wasn't making any money with Make It Matter. And so we prayed about it and felt the release to do it. And so we signed the lease 3 months into having the flower truck and then opened it up in April of that following year. And I mean, you probably know this. Huntsville's just incredible with small businesses. Like the way that they embrace a small business and just love us and support us, it has been so beautiful. And I think, people like flowers no matter what. But I think when they know it's going to something greater, that a portion of every single purchase that is made is pouring back in to Make It Matter financially. But then also we're providing job opportunities for these kids too. It's just been really special to see the community come around that.
Yeah. And so for those that, I mean, and for myself too, how prevalent, so talk a little bit about just the need and like the numbers of people aging out of foster care here in Alabama, here in Huntsville in general.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's not necessarily a topic that's discussed too much.
Yeah.
So I'm just a little unfamiliar with it.
For sure. No, I appreciate you asking that. So in the United States as a whole, over 20,000 kids age out of foster care every single year. So it's a big number, right? Majority of them not knowing where to go. They just want to completely get out of the system. They're so sick of the programs. They're sick of, maybe not being treated the way that a human should be treated. And then in Alabama specifically, a little over 300 every single year. I actually was in court a few weeks back and was just supporting one of our young adults and was listening to a conversation from one of the Kajas, which is a court-appointed juvenile advocate. And they were saying how they had a kid who was 16, and you don't age out of foster care until 19 in the state of Alabama. But there is a 16-year-old that ran away because they decided anything outside of this has to be better than this. So I would choose homelessness over being in the system and bouncing from home to home. Because the reality is with teenagers in foster care, they get a bad rap a lot of times. And so because of that, a lot of families don't necessarily feel comfortable taking them in, especially if they have younger children. And I can understand to a degree the mindset of that if you're not familiar with these kids, but they're incredible, incredible kids. It's not their fault, the cards that were handed to them. And they've grown up in a really broken system and they deserve hope and security too.
Yeah. And so as you've built this out, I know a lot of you've actually started doing some partnerships with some of the schools here in town too. Talk a little bit about that partnership and how because I mean, you've begun to raise money, and we'll talk a little bit about one of the big projects that you're currently working on. But a big thing coming into this, I think, even to this school year, or even as we sit, kind of coming up soon, is this partnerships with Huntsville City Schools.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, and talk a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah. So honestly, this is such a good segue. So the conversation we just had about the teenager that was wanting to run away at 16, when we started Make It Matter, in my mind, I said, okay, let's start when they're 16, build a relationship with them, have them connected to a mentor, and then help transition them from 16 to 19 into a good independent living space, right? So help that transition. What we realized is if we're waiting until 16 years old to make that connection with them, most of them are going to already be checked out. They're either going to have already run away, already decided and told themselves that there's something better. I'm not doing another program or whatever it may be. And so we talked with Lauren Coker, who's just phenomenal, as well as Miss Flippo at Huntsville City Schools. And we just decided, no, we need to start at 13 years old. We want to get them right at the beginning of those developmental teenage years and pair them with a mentor that is going to stand the test of time with them throughout their high school journey. And so really ages 13 to 15, we're just focused on building trust and showing them that there is stability here, that this is a safe space. No one's going to leave you. No one's going to abandon you. We're here for the long haul until you say that you're done with us, right? And then once they turn 16, really hone in on those life skills and helping them map out the future that they are absolutely capable of having for themselves. That way, when they turn 19, they have a clear pathway of where they want to go moving forward.
And there's partnerships you're also kind of working on at the higher education, like the Calhoun options, the UAH options.
Drake State is another great one.
Not everyone's going to go to secondary. Like, no, not everyone should go to college. Not everyone's going to go to college. But having that pathway of saying, like, hey, what are the options out there for me? And there's plenty of entry-level options here in Huntsville with the variety of plants and automotive stuff. And assembly stuff that is all coming and pouring into Huntsville area, but making sure that these kids know that actually exists. Because I feel like for most of them, it's they see their classmates and they're all going to Auburn, Alabama, UAH, whatever it might be, and it's like, well, that's not necessarily for me.
Yes.
And so having these pathways, and a big part of the thing that you're kind of raising money in for going into 2026 is the 614 initiative.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think it's such a unique thing that you're looking at putting together and building.
Absolutely. That's like my baby. That's what I'm so excited about. We've been working with young adults actually for the past year, and it has been beautiful. And just there have been so many exciting things that have happened in that. But one thing that we come back to, the team and I, every single time is we have to have a safe space for them. We have to have a place where it is a controlled environment, and not in a negative sense, but in a space where we are able to oversee what the day in and day out looks like. There is consistency there. They know what to expect. There's community, right? So, they can come down to the main floor of the apartment complex, and there's computers there for them. There's a living room area. There's a kitchen where they can just sit and belong and feel secure. So the whole purpose of the 614 initiative is to provide housing for the youth once they age out of foster care. So it is not required for them to go to that. But we created the mentorship program through Huntsville City Schools. We're calling it the Collective. And the purpose of that is for us to pair them with the mentor. And then when they're getting to that 18, 19-year-old age, they can really determine, okay, do I want to go off to college? Because if they want to go to Auburn or Alabama, absolutely. Like, we're going to support you in that, help you get the funds that you need, get the scholarships. But if that's just not the best option for you and you want to look at some other options, we want to take off your plate one of the hardest parts of transitioning into adulthood, which is housing, right? So if we can just give you a stable foundation to stand on for a few years while you figure out adulting, because I had a great family growing up. Like, they were so supportive, always present, very consistent. And I still didn't know what the heck I was doing when I was graduating high school. Like, it was overwhelming to me, right? And so I just think about these young adults trying to navigate this all on their own. Yes, they're 18, 19 years old, but developmentally, a lot of them are functioning around 13, 14 years old. Imagine a 13 or 14-year-old deciding how they're going to pay for an apartment, where they're going to go to school, what full-time job. A lot of them don't even really recognize the cost of living. And so that's where we want to come alongside and help with that. And again, provide that stability through the apartment complex while they are in our program. And then as they transition out, be able to just launch them successfully into the future that they've created for themselves.
Yeah. And so as we we're recording this episode at the end of 2025. Where's sort of the status of this apartment complex? Like, I know you kind of have a location and you're raising funding, and
Yep.
a big part of 2026 is to kind of continue to raise funding, get the word out there of what you're doing and why there's a need for this.
Yeah.
But give us sort of the rundown of where everything sits here in almost Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have land. I can't wait to one day get to share the story of how that came to be, because it's just such a picture of the Lord and just how he works in my life, I believe. And so we have plenty of acreage. It is actually in Owens Crossroads. So we're very, very excited about that. That was very strategic and intentional. I actually did get a lot of pushback on that. We had a lot of people really share that, there's not public transportation out there, and there's not, a ton of job opportunities, whatever it may be. But I really believed that it was supposed to feel like a retreat and an escape for a little bit from the reality that they've had, a place where we can really come alongside them and intentionally have community with them. And then launch them into all the things. So we have great partnerships in Owens Crossroads and surrounding areas, and we are working on the transportation side of, practically how does that look, getting them to these places before they have a car. So we're strategically thinking through all that right now, but it is a $7.5 million project. We are $1.5 million into it. So we have the land, we have excavation covered and good to go. We had an amazing company donate land surveying, which is just precious. So we have $6 million to go. And I know that sounds like a huge number, but I'm just so at peace that it's going to happen, because this isn't just like a fun little side thing that we're wanting to do just because it sounds fun. It actually, it's very intimidating and overwhelming, if I'm being very honest, but it is a need. And in our community, I don't think it's a need that's necessarily being met. There's a ton of great organizations out there doing huge things, but this specific niche, I just want these kids to know that they're loved, that they're seen, and that someone's fighting and advocating for them too. So we need a lot of money. We need it quickly, just in the sense of, every year we have over 300 kids aging out in Alabama alone. And so this space is so necessary. That we look at homeless rates, we look at incarceration rates, teen pregnancies, human trafficking. If you look at those statistics, majority of those victims are from the child welfare system. Teenagers that aged out and had no place to go and put their trust in anyone or anything that they could see fit. And so it's needed and it's necessary.
Yeah. And so as we transition into 2026, what is sort of the, obviously it's fundraising, it's getting the word out there, it's doing things like this. What are sort of your expectations going into the first half of 2026 and then what are you hoping to see? Where can people kind of get involved and kind of help tag along and support you in the different areas that you're looking at going into the next year? Absolutely.
So there's a lot of different facets and ways people can get involved. Number one, I appreciate your prayers and support more than you know. We want to be covered in this, right? Because this is a big project. And the last thing I want to do, literally every time I lay my head down at night, I'm like, Lord, I just pray that we never get to a place where we're hurting these kids more than we are helping them. I just so badly want to do right by every single one of these kids. So we appreciate your prayers. We appreciate mentors. We need mentors for the mentorship program happening at Huntsville City Schools. We need quality mentors, ones that are going to stand the test of time, because of the trauma that these young adults and at the time that these teenagers are experiencing. There may be different behaviors that you're not necessarily comfortable with or used to, but you are going to get ample training in that. I was actually a certified TIPS trainer at my last job. And so I learned all about really trauma-informed parenting for therapeutic kids in foster care, which is even a lot higher level of trauma. So that is the level of training that we want to be giving all of these mentors, as if you were foster parents, even though you're not. We want you to know all the behaviors so you're set up fully for success and not surprised. So we are desperately in need of mentors. And then we do need funding. my big push for 2026 for me personally and just our team is let's get loud. Let's get as loud as we can about this. I think the past few years, we've really been honing in on our systems, right? So we've really been trying to get Noellas in a space where, okay, we're not just donating to make it matter, but we are in a perfect position to be able to come alongside these teenagers and provide them with quality jobs where they're getting to learn what it's like to be an entrepreneur, if that's something they're interested in, what it's like to, do retail, what it's like we ship flowers nationwide. So we have the warehouse side. So if someone's not really comfortable customer facing, hey, let me show you what an assembly line is like and how we, build out all of these flowers and ship them. So there's just so many different facets to that that we've been working on behind the scenes that I think a lot of people thought like, what's Make It Matter doing? Oh, we've been hustling. It's just been in the background. But we're confident in our systems and we take so much pride in them. And we're really excited to now get loud in 2026 and share this massive vision that the Lord has entrusted us with. And just excited to see it come to fruition.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if you were to look back on these last few years, the last 4 or 5 years of kind of starting the flowers van to starting all the stuff that we've talked about today.
Yeah.
And someone's listening and they have sort of an idea for something. They're not really sure what that idea is. Maybe it's not a nonprofit. Maybe it's not a retail thing. Maybe it's whatever it might be, but they're kind of on that fence. Mm-hmm. Thinking back to your experiences, what would you want someone to tell you if you were in their shoes again? Like in that, hey, I have this idea, but I haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
What would be something that would make you say, okay, now I can take this leap?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's that simple. I think sometimes we overthink everything, right? Like, I remember when we wanted to start Make It Matter, I was like, I've only been a social worker for 3 years. No one is going to take me seriously. But you know what? Like, everybody had a first start. And so I think the biggest thing is getting out of your own way. Don't self-sabotage. If it's something that you feel like you're supposed to do and you're called to do, just take the next step. Literally just take the next step in front of you. And before you know it, you're going to be standing in the middle of something that you never expected. I mean, again, I was not trying to be a florist. I just was like, let's just do the flower truck. That's a good, safe next step. And then now here we are, and we have so much to learn and so much growing to do. But it is beautiful to look back and see, like, I never expected any of this. This was not part of my plan. I had no 5-year plan for this. This just unfolded. But it was because the people around me kept encouraging me to take the next step and the next step. And they were small steps, but they were still significant when you look back. So same with Make It Matter, just taking small steps. There may be seasons where you feel like you're delayed or you're not sure where to go next, but just stay faithful to it and take those small next steps. Surround yourself with people that also believe in the vision. Alex Ann, we laugh about it because, I mean, it was over 3 years ago, she sat down and she was like, I know you're not ready to hire anybody yet for Make It Matter, but when you are, I'm here. And she has been our first full-time employee. She was our first hire on. She's been with us for a little over a year now, and it's just been the greatest gift.
Yeah. And so kind of to wrap up the conversation, if someone wants to find out more, hear more about your story, more about Make It Matter, they want to find you online, where's the best outlets? Where's the websites, social medias, and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So website is makeitmattercollective.com. So you'll find all of the information for everything there. The 614 initiative, there's a whole page just talking all about the details of that, as well as the mentorship program. So you can become a mentor online, fill out the application, you can donate online, or you can reach out to us if you want to have a further conversation about specific ways that you can be involved in this whole thing that we're doing. And then we have an Instagram and a Facebook. It's Make It Matter Collective, or you can just reach out to us by email at info@makeitmattercollective.com.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to have everything in the episode notes, links to everything. So if anyone's listening or watching and they want to find out more information, you can visit the links below. But I appreciate you taking the time to share us a little bit about your story, a little bit about the Make It Matter Collective. I think, in a couple of years, we're going to have you back on because it's going to, the impact, some of these things that we've talked about that are, do seem down the road are going to be to fruition. And we're going to have to talk a little bit about that. And then it's going to change all of the impact you're having here in Huntsville is going to be insane. But I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, and we'll be sure to have everything in the episode notes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Beyond Rockets. Don't forget you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen and on YouTube at Beyond Rockets. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Beyond Rockets to stay up to date with new episodes as they are released. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.